All right, YouTube world. Today I thought about doing something a little bit different, having a little bit of a chat. Just something that comes up quite often in my practice and when I speak to people online. And today I want to talk about that, and that is MRIs or imaging for the body to kind of diagnose and what's happening in the world of imaging when you get an MRI or an X-ray, and how reliable is this actually in MSK situations. So let's jump straight into it. So for those of you who are new to the channel here, my name is Jay from Explore the Movement, and if you are not subscribed yet, I would really highly appreciate it if you consider subscribing. It really helps the channel grow. If you enjoy me making these little videos and you find it interesting and you find it useful, please share it with your friends. By sharing it, we help to grow the channel and we can reach more people and try to educate more people as we go along. So for today's video, I specifically want to talk about MRI. Now, MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. This is basically an image of the body's soft tissue. Soft tissue is different when it comes to an X-ray. When you take an X-ray of the body, you're looking at the bony structures of it. To take an MRI, you're kind of looking at the soft tissue of the body, which is not bone. So here's the deal. When people usually get injured, and we're going to talk today in today's setting about MSK, musculoskeletal situations and injuries, people sometimes think about an MRI as kind of like a means to an end. Let me give you a scenario, a situation. You have an injury, or you have an overuse injury, or you have some sort of a trauma to a certain body part. Okay, it could be acute and it could also be chronic. You then go to your doctor and you raise concern that you injured it or you have pain somewhere. And now we have to touch on pain. This is the big and specific one that we need to talk about, because this is what initially drew you to go and see the doctor. Usually what happens then is you go through your primary care or your physician, and they refer you to a physiotherapist or an osteopath or something. Then you start your treatment, and your treatment could last from a week, it could last from a month, and usually with more chronic situations or cases, this doesn't get resolved that fast. So usually the patient goes back to see the doctor. The next step then is, let's get imaging done. Now, here's what we need to understand. Is getting imaging done, in this case we're looking at the MRI, is getting imaging done actually going to give us an answer or a approach to understand better what is going on with the patient and understand where we need to go as a planned structure to help to get the patient pain-free? Firstly, let's look at what an MRI actually is going to do. So when you're going to enter and you're going to get a MRI for the specific body part that hurts, let's take the lower back for instance, just for an example, because majority of patients in the public have experienced some sort of a back pain. If you go and take an MRI on your lower back, you will find something. If you're gonna look for something, you will find something. Now, here's where the tricky part comes in. There was a study done where they took 123 patients aged between 18 and 77 with pain in one shoulder, lasting between 1 month to 3 years in duration. They scanned both shoulders. So you have 123 patients. So sample size is quite big. You have a wide range. So you have from 18-year-old youth kid all the way up to granny 77. So a wide variety of diseases and problems with the shoulder. They scanned, one shoulder was painful, the other shoulder wasn't. They scanned both of those shoulders. What they found was almost identical problems in both shoulders. Now that brings you to the question, how valid is it really to get imaging done to understand why you have pain? Half of the population walking in the street now, living their daily life, are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic, this means they don't experience any symptoms from, let's say, lower back pain. 50% experience lower back pain. If you're going to scan both groups, you're going to find wear and tear, you're going to find bulges, you're going to find herniations, you're going to find problems with the facet joints in both groups. But this doesn't explain why there's pain. Pain is very, very different. Just because you have a pathological change or a slight anatomical change does not always mean that is the reason for pain. Example again. Let's say you have lower back pain. It's painful, you go to the doctor says, okay, you need physical therapy, you go to the physio, they try their hardest, unfortunately it wasn't successful, and you go back to the doctor and he gives imaging as a secondary investigation into it. If there's no neurological signs, then what is the point of getting imaging done? Because if you do take imaging, you will find something wrong with the back. But let's say you have a little bit of arthritis in the back. Let's say you have a bulging disc in the back. Let's say there is a slight effusion on the facet joints. What is the cause of the pain then? We don't understand what is the cause of the pain. So hence, how does the MRI tell us that this is the problem? It doesn't, unfortunately. The second problem that we have with getting imaging done so rapidly and looking for answers is that the patient runs out of hope and understanding and education, and they think that by getting imaging done, that will help them to become pain-free. This is not always the case. There's a very psychological or psychophysiological change that happens. If you go and get imaging done, let's take the lower back again for example. If you go and get imaging done and the imaging comes back, you have slight back pain and the imaging comes back and says you have a herniated disc, you are going to be categorized as the person with the herniated discs. I have seen this over and over, that people come in to train, to do physical exercise, and the first thing that they mention is, oh, I have a herniated disc. Second question is, when did this happen? Oh, 10 years ago. Just because you had a herniated disc 10 years ago does not mean you have a herniated disc right now. Through science and studies have been shown that herniated discs can resolve themselves within six months to 2 years. This does not mean you need to categorize yourself into that category of I'm the person with a herniated disc. Categorization of this sort is what leads to physical problems. And yes, psychologically, you can become hypersensitive in an area because of your physiological and psychological reasoning. The brain is an incredibly powerful thing. if you're going to put yourself in the situation of categorizing yourself with, I'm the person with the herniated disc and this is what's causing me pain, that can have implications on your lower back, your pain, your mental health. So I want us to think about whether we really need imaging done in an MRI sense or not. It is very important for the physiotherapist to understand that these imagings are not a necessity. What is important is let's take something that's chronic. You need to communicate with the patient. You need to listen to the patient. You need to educate the patient. Together, you and the patient need to plan a structure that's going to be reliable for the patient, that's goal-driven, that's orientated, that's not time-consuming, that will actually be able to perform and complete, and something that's going to give motivation for the patient to be able to go forward. For the physiotherapist, you need to figure out what is the irritant that's causing the pain. What is it that's allowing the pain to be higher or not subside? The second thing is you need to try to avoid that irritant. If that irritant is lifting a certain amount of load in your training, then that irritant needs to be avoided for now. Can you decrease the load or change the exercise, yes or no? Then we need to introduce pain-free movement. Pain-free movement is one of the best things you can do because one of the most researched therapies for pain reduction is actually movement. Then the last thing what we need to do, we need to start to progressively overload that certain area again. If you follow these small little factors and not rely too much on imaging to get done to give you an answer for why we have pain, we are looking at a more promising or prospect future for the patient. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion I had, call it a discussion. If you have any ideas or comments of how you've experienced imaging and pain, I would love to hear about it. Leave it down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd highly appreciate it if you like it and smash the like button. If you have any questions at all, please drop them down below. I answer them within 24 hours. And then if you guys are interested in training programs, we have them all at explorethemovement.com. And until next time, see ya.